5, 6, 7, 8.
Spotlight.
On stage at MMT.
Spotlight.
I meet the cast, crew, and company.
Spotlight.
Sit back,
On
relax,
stage
and
tonight.
give us a
Spotlight on stage at
MMT. All right, welcome back to Spotlight on Stage. This episode, we will introduce Jomarie and Roger. And I will let them kind of give a little introduction of themselves to everyone who's watching at home. Jomarie, you want to start?
Sure. My name is Jomarie Yososoegito, and I like long walks on the beach. I'm an Aries Taurus cusp who enjoys reading tarot cards and all things moon and witchy. I'm not good at this. What do you want to know
That's
about
perfect.
me?
Yeah.
I have two beautiful children, both who are involved in theater and love theater, and a taller child who is more talented than I ever was and will ever be, and a small child who is smarter than I ever was and will ever be. And I have been singing and dancing and acting. It's just me. I don't know how to act. I've been singing and dancing and on stage and TV and across the nation since I was 9 months old. So I've been doing this forever. But I really like doing it here.
A little bit of time there.
Well, we like having you here.
And Mr. Roger.
Well, she's got the jump on me because I think I've been doing this 8 years now.
Oh, so just
Maybe
a
it's
couple
a little
years
long.
longer
Maybe
than
going
that?
into 9-ish.
Yeah, that seems about right.
Friendly neighborhood mechanic. Sometimes not so friendly. But yeah, I famously got into this because you guys lost one of your quartet men for Music Man
That is
shortly
correct.
before the show at the park.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
And I wasn't there. The story went to me that one of my children,
Yes.
raised their hand and said, "My father sings bluegrass. That's like, that's in the ballpark." We can
Sold.
work with it." So, and I've been here ever since. And like she said, I love it here. I don't think I'm the first person that said that.
So let us talk a little bit about, because you kind of touched on it, Roger. So let's talk about each of your first experiences with doing a show with us, whether it be at the park for you, Roger, or here at the theater, Jomarie. So Roger, why don't you just kind of continue where you were with that Music Man story and just kind of let the audience at home know, like, now I know the answer to this, but what kind of prior stage experience you had. You mentioned bluegrass, and what that experience was like, especially being a replacement and getting even less time because it happened shortly after the first few rehearsals. So yeah, why don't you elaborate a little on that?
Well, stage experience would be near zero. I was in bands and played music around when I was younger, so I guess that kind of counts as
Absolutely.
performing for sure.
Yeah.
But
What do you play,
nothing
Roger?
like this. Bass, guitar, a little bit of mandolin. But nothing like this.
Right.
I think the most descriptive word for what I felt going into Music Man that first time was just like really, it was terrifying, but in a like real like wee kind of way.
Right. Like a roller
Right?
coaster.
Yeah. I was like, all right, I've seen them do it. I know they all do it. They do it all the time. Just listen to what the boys tell me to do, and I'll get there. And I think when I realized how far I had jumped in was when Joe Nappy at the first music rehearsal was like, "What part do you sing?" I'm like, "What are you talking about? What part? Are you a bass? Are you a tenor?" No, I had no idea, dude. This is what we're working with. What do you want me to sing? And obviously, I enjoyed it. Like to think I'm decent at it. Feel like I'm earning my keep a little bit here finally after all these years. And
Absolutely.
still learning stuff too, which is incredible.
Always.
So are we.
So that's it in a nutshell.
Touch real quickly on, before we move ahead to Jomarie's answer. You had that was your first experience. That was at the open air theater. And then you got to do The Music Man again, same role here inside. So why don't you just explain if there was any kind of contrast in those two experiences for you?
Well, you were in the quartet, like right here.
Yes, I was.
That made me buckle up on the singing a little bit. But I think I'd been taking voice lessons already at that point because
Yeah, I mean,
I
that
did
was-
realize in pretty short order, like I've got a decent voice, but you got to know how
Absolutely.
to use it. Can't just show
That
up.
that was probably 6 years later, maybe
Yeah.
even, right? So, because we had been at the park in a while, and I would assume it was much easier because you were certainly familiar with the show because you had done it once before, so you got to kind of help any newbies along who hadn't been through the process yet, instead of being the newbie there. So, Jomarie, why don't you answer the same question? Tell everyone at home what your first show was here, and it's a little different because you haven't spoken about, like how you found us and came to audition and all that business.
Yeah, so my very, very old, and he's not old, he's just I'm old. So my very, very old and dear friend, Brian Peak, had told me about his friends who were creating this immaculate, amazing, incredible space. And they were doing an all-female version of Jesus Christ Superstar. And I wanted in that so badly. But I had just quit a very high stress job as a developer for mortgage software, which I still do now. I went back because I like money. But I had been in the process of kind of finding my way back to theater. My children were older, and I was so much involved with their theater productions that I was just really missing and craving and hungry for that space again. So when he told me about Jesus Christ Superstar, I was super bummed because I had gone to my first audition in like 10 years. And at my first audition at the Ritz, I booked 3 callbacks and 2 shows. And I was booked during that whole season because I don't know if the folks at home know how other theater companies work. Um, it is not like here at all. You have 1, 2, 3 months of rehearsals and then a 1, 2, 3 month run. But here, they turn their shows over in 2 weeks. Everything that you see here is just done at such a professional level where when it comes to a rehearsal schedule and the respect that you have for your actors and the respect that you have for call time and man oh man stop time, right? That you don't really get in a lot of places if you're not an equity actor. And so I was like, well, I'm in the middle of a run of Into the Woods at the Ritz, and it was beautiful and it was wonderful, and I enjoyed that. But I was like, I saw the audition notice for your next season. I didn't care about being cast in anything at all whatsoever. But I knew you were doing um, I knew that you were doing South Pacific in the following season, and it might sound pretentious, but I wanted you to know I existed because South Pacific is a show that I will be doing until I'm dead. There is not a show.
As you should be.
There is not a show on this earth that I am more typecast for. So I just wanted you to know that I existed, and I was happy to take whatever in whatever or nothing based on what you already had going on here. I didn't know what type of theater you guys were or what the I don't really want to expand on that, but I think that it goes unsaid. I didn't know what type of house you were, but I knew that you were a non-equity house. And as a non-equity actor, I figured I'd just come on out and show you guys that I existed. And you guys cast me in the chorus, the ensemble of Aida, and blessed me with being Sierra Nelson's understudy. Man, she is a gift. And I prayed real hard that she would stay healthy, so that my Indonesian self, would not have to be a Nubian princess. And I just found a place with people that I'd I I'd come here for free often.
Well, I think that's we've touched on kind of the fact that we run our scheduling more on like a summer stock, pace. That's kind of what we know, and what we're able to do. And I think that's a major difference from some of the other places within our area anyway. Is as you mentioned, it's usually a bit of a longer process, but we kind of know how to condense it down here, and just that allows us to keep our turnover quick, which allows us then in turn to give you, the audience, a more expanded season. It drives us a little crazier than it probably should, but that's how we're able to offer so many different productions throughout the year. I think we range anywhere from, on a normal season, 14 to 16 main stage productions, and then again in a normal season about the same number for the children's program that we run. So it's a lot of scheduling and that kind of stuff, but it's great that you bring up that, and you're not the first person to say this, and I know it makes both of us very happy to hear that you feel that this is a place where it's not just about doing the theater necessarily.
Do you know this guy brought me dumplings last night? And the week before, his son brought me a chicken sandwich. And if you've ever met me, there are very simple ways to dig through my cold black heart. Because
dumplings are one of them.
Well, because I seem like a very nice person, but I am not. And the people here bring out the best of me.
Well, that's wonderful to hear, and we really do kind of pride ourselves on having a family atmosphere, which means we don't always all get along, because you don't in family, but we always are there and have each other's backs, and that's what's important. And it's also important to note that it's not just the people that are currently here. We are continuously welcoming new people into the fold here at MMT, and even this year with this crazy pandemic, where we've been touch and go, and we open for a couple of weeks, and then we have to shut down for a couple of weeks, we have still brought in one or two brand new faces, even with the obstacles that we've had this year. So we're always looking to expand our family. Briefly, why don't you guys tell, and Roger, you touched on this a little bit, but why don't you guys tell the audience at home any, if any, musical theater experiences you had before you came? And I'm not asking for a resume of things. I'm just asking, like, what types of things, what kinds of things you did, if it varied at all in whether TV or commercial or cruise ship or anything like that, or you brought up the bluegrass. So why don't you guys, Jomarie, why don't you go first this time?
Oh, goodness. You don't want my resume. So I was very lucky at a very young age to follow in the footsteps of my aunt. And my grandmother spent a whole lot of time with me, taking me to dance lessons, to vocal lessons. I was very blessed to have a vocal coach by the name of Russ Faith, who was very instrumental in like all of the Annie casting ever. Andrea McCardle was infamously or famously one of his students, and he has many others who have gone to do great things. But in that, I was afforded a lot of opportunities. I was the youngest teeny bopper on Al Albert's showcase when I was a short person.
Al.
Uncle Al. What kind of carpet do they have on the moon?
I don't know, Jomarie. What kind of carpet?
AstroTurf. Anyhow, and so I was really, really lucky to get involved with this theater, the Three Little Bakers Dinner Theater in Delaware, when I was young, and I ran the gambit with the dinner theaters. I don't know if you guys remember. I don't even remember at this point, but there was a dinner theater in Philadelphia, right on the docks.
Yes, dinner theater was huge.
I
huge
did Annie
in Philly.
there, and the girls would beat the crap out of me in the laundry basket and threaten to throw me off the pier. And I was a very annoying little child, but adults have always liked me. When I went into high school, I continued to do theater inside and outside of my high school drama department. Very coincidentally, me and some guy named Jordan Brennan were in a production of A Chorus Line that also performed in the open air theater at Washington Crossing Park, and also in a high school, or maybe it was a college.
I think it was
college auditorium.
Was it Bucks?
I don't even remember. It's a lifetime ago now. But after I graduated high school, they welcomed me back at Three Little Bakers. I did professional theater there, many, many, many productions, with this same exact family atmosphere. Those friends are very near and dear to my heart. Brian being one of them that I mentioned earlier. But I was also lucky enough to book a national tour right out of high school. We did 16 cities in 18 weeks.
Oof.
Yeah.
And, it's just something that is such a part of my soul and just such a part of who I am as a person. I'm gonna cry, and this is like super personal, but I lost my grandmother this year, and I just got to keep doing this because she'd be real disappointed in me if I didn't.
Well, you will not and have not disappointed her. So I don't think you have to worry about that. So, Roger, same question for you. Just talk briefly
Roger, were
about...
you a teeny bopper?
No,
Uncle Al.
never will be.
Just talk to the people about your performance experience. Again, it does not mean on stage in musicals. It just means performance.
Growing up, I always liked to play music. I was in a lot of rock bands, and coming into getting into the theater with you guys, I had moved up here to be closer to my wife's family because our children were about to start school. I was a Marine brat, sidebar. Hated it. Didn't like moving around. Constantly the new kid. So I decided once we had kids, I'm like, once they start school, I want them to stay put.
Sure.
At least through college. They can do whatever they want. Which we've done, and I feel like we landed in the right spot for sure. And I didn't realize how right the spot was at the time. But just coming into that, I had met these group of guys that have been playing music together for 40 years now. A little older than me, but I've always been like that. I've had older friends, younger friends.
Sure.
So I started, same thing I did here. Just, hey, I'm the least knowledgeable guy in the room. Let me come in and learn.
Watch,
in a
observe,
good spot,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So I had been filling in with these guys because their bass player liked to show up and play gigs, and they had been playing long enough together that they didn't have to actually rehearse.
Sure.
Just show up and do a show, no problem. But he didn't like to come and just rehearse. The other guys some of them wanted to play 3-4 days a week, so that's where I kind of stepped in, and it was perfect for me because I didn't want any of the hassle of going out and trying to perform, so it's
Sure.
let's go play in the backyard and hang out and have good company, and I'm learning stuff.
Yeah.
Getting into music that I wasn't really into as a youth. But acting experience, man, nothing. I don't even know that I saw a show live before I started doing stuff with you guys, other than the kids, like
Yeah.
Sure.
watching the kids shows. That'd be
Right.
about it.
I do want to say that in the time that I spent rearing my younger children in their days, I did tinker in some party bands as well.
I can see that.
I was I'm a perpetual chick singer, so maybe we'll
So
maybe we can
we're
start.
forming a band right
Yeah,
now.
can
Is
we
that what
start
we're
a
saying?
band, Roger?
You know, we can just work it into the stage somehow.
can
I
just
mean,
play
we've
the
had a wedding
tambourine.
here at the
Yeah.
theater,
We
so
have.
we can provide the wedding bands as well.
Yeah.
Why not, right?
Patrick Lavery, start writing some songs.
And he will. All right, let's switch gears to something, again, just trying to inform as much of the people watching from home about us. They see you all the time on stage now. They don't know much about you. What do you do when you're not here? What do you do for a living? We've talked about some kids, but we've talked about a little auto mechanic. Yeah.
That's what I do for money, is work on cars.
Yeah.
I've had a couple people ask me recently, like, what's your favorite car to work on? I do not enjoy working on cars. I'm not like a gearhead. I'm not a car guy. I drive a very unpretentious old Impala with steel wheels. I just don't care about them. It's just something I could do with my hands to make money, because that's kind of how I've always operated. When I'm not here, that's about it. I work and hope for the next show, you know what I mean? Or spend a lot of time cooking at home. And we were talking about
Oh
my
my gosh,
family, it's
the
kind of our love
Maddings.
language is food.
It is.
The
Obviously.
Maddings cook so well.
It's a cooking house.
But you'd be
They
surprised some
didn't
nights
hear
we
you.
do eat hot
He said,
dogs.
yeah,
Okay.
definitely.
So Jomarie, same thing for you.
I'm gonna. Speaking of the youths, I'm gonna talk directly to the youths. I came into the most incredible career that I didn't even know it existed. Right, so I didn't go to college. I was going to be a performer. I was only going to be a performer. I was told since I was 9 months old, or before that I was a performer, and there was no contingency plan. And in 2004, I wrecked my right leg so bad that I could not walk for 2 whole years.
Wow.
And there are certain aspects of being a female performer that I was just no longer appropriate for people that typecast. And so, I went through and I took job after job after job, stayed with one company for a very, very long time. But my friend Allie said, you know what, I'm a smart person and you're my friend and I think you're a smart person and I think that you can do what I do. So I want to tell the youths that go and Google what a business analyst is, because I think that theater kids specifically are born business analysts. We know how to take charge of a meeting. We know how to ask very specific questions. We know how to think out of the box. We know how to figure out puzzles. And most importantly, because I'm a business systems analyst and my job is to take everyday people's requirements and rewrite them so that a computer developer can understand them. Most importantly, we know how to take a story and share it with other people in a way that they are able to understand and completely. So project manager, business analyst.
And that skill set you learned
I learned here.
From
there's,
theater.
There's no, the soft skills, people can teach you the systems. People can teach you the hard stuff, right? But the soft skills that you learn in theater, being able to take nothing, right? Literally nothing. And, we were practicing for Anne Frank, and I have ADHD, I jump around a lot. We were practicing for Anne Frank, and, in one rehearsal day, we were in a lobby, a warehouse, and a pool store. Okay, so being able to take nothing and create a world, even without Music Mountain's amazing sets, every rehearsal starts with a bunch of boxes that Carl nails together. A bench is a bed, and a chair is a car, and it's those things. It's being able to take nothing and make it something, and adapt. The adaptability in live theater, my
Absolutely.
goodness. I mean, Jordan, how many times have you fixed an entire costume in a set change? Really, truly, I don't know if you don't live it, if you really understand everything that goes into adapting to the moment, creating that story for other people, not letting them see behind the scenes.
Of course. Because half the time, this audience is only seeing half the show that's happening.
Yeah, half the show, and the dance backstage is just glorious. I recall, Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder.
Yeah,
those people.
That brings up,
backstage.
I will let you elaborate on that. We want to point out that, and we've done this with a few other people, and Roger qualifies for this too, that these two people here are company members, as have been most of the interviews thus far, but we encourage them to do things here other than perform. And Jomarie's going to elaborate on a story where she was a dresser for us. We occasionally, if the show requires a
An
multitude
extra set of
of
hands.
very quick costume changes, we will
Or
bring
body
in
parts.
someone as a dresser. And Roger has also been part of the technical team running Spotlight and that kind of thing. So continue with your story. I just wanted to point that out to the at-home audience.
Yeah, I just wanted, it wasn't going to be a long part of the story, but I just wanted to say that the dance that happens backstage, A Gentleman's Guide to Love and Murder was literally a ballet of Olivia Frankenbach, Carl, McAfee. I think do you know McAfee? Have you met him?
He's a cook kid.
Hi, McAfee.
Hi,
Is that Chris
McAfee.
too? Hi, Chris.
Hi, Chris. Backstage, it was just a dance of Carl, McAfee, me, and Olivia just living. I wasn't even part of the production. Nobody knows that I was there, but I just, it was I've done a lot of theater, and I will continue to say it was my favorite show that I've ever done. But just the world, what I was trying to say is making something out of nothing, right? So our production of Anne Frank, the entire back of the attic was the set of Music Man. It's just the things that you don't see because you create something out of absolutely nothing. A couple of boards and some paint and Carl's just magic and Chris's lighting, and it's really it's very adaptable, and that's what you need to become a business analyst, children.
And she also pointed out of the fact that now that the theater, this building is reopening slowly, we're starting to have more things happening. We have shows that we're getting ready for, so we need to rehearse. Sometimes while other things are still rehearsing, people are renting it for their dance recitals occasionally. But she mentioned 3 different locations for one rehearsal, so it also requires extreme focus because you have to jump from space to space. You have to remember exactly where you were when someone called a halt 5 minutes before, and then you have to be able to get right back into that same headspace. So,
which is why I'm really good at work with context switching. That's what they call it in corporate America, context switching.
So, speaking of context switching, we're going to switch gears right now and just talk a little bit about some roles that we want to mention of both of yours that have kind of stood out for us. Both of you have been lucky enough to have been awarded Mounty Awards, so we will mention those.
Thank you.
Jomarie was for South Pacific. for Bloody Mary, and Roger was for Wait Until Dark for Mike Tallman. So why don't you guys just kind of quickly just talk about, you mentioned South Pacific before, Jomarie, and I know you had played that specific role before, at least once or twice. So why don't you just kind of tell the audience a little bit about your history or your affinity for the role, which keeps you coming back to it.
Well, I am glad that you had me go first, because when I received my Mountie, I was so surprised because the ladies in that category were so incredibly talented. I did not assume for a moment that I would win. That I just said ditto to whatever Roger said, and then walked off stage. South Pacific. You know, I did my first production of South Pacific when I was something like 3 years old. I did it by myself. I did it with my little brother. When I first did it, oh, you know what? I was 5 years old, and I know that because when I first did it, my mom would crawl behind the set, pregnant with my younger brother, to help me with my costume changes and this, that, and the other thing. And being a mixed race Asian American, Asian/Caucasian child, South Pacific, specifically the South Pacific, because my father is from Indonesia, and we have been to Bali, and you know, just I I will ramble if I keep going on, but it's just the material is relevant. The racism is taught. It's not something that you are born with, and even though that character is a caricature of and slightly a racist caricature of a human being, I just had my daddy record all my lines, and I said them the way he did. But so, because I don't act, I really don't, and man, I will sing and dance and kick my leg up over my head, but when it comes to acting, I don't ever expect to be recognized for that because it's just me.
Well, I think that's important too. I think that if we've talked about it with other interviews, you have to relate somehow, whether you directly relate to this character because they are very similar to your background, let's say, or feelings that you've had, or if it's completely unrelated to you, you have to find something in you that you can relate to so that everyone out here, or for now virtually, can feel what you're feeling. So I get it. It's not necessarily acting, but it's kind of just being
Yeah,
that person. I
and
mean, if I can jump in too, we had an interview with Will Hammerstein earlier this year, and he brought up South Pacific as being one of his grandfather's most I don't know, prized accomplishments, and how he would bicker and argue with the team of people creating that story at that time in history, and how the song "You've Got to Be Carefully Taught," he was adamant about it staying in the show, and they said, "No, it's a downer. Cut it out." You know, when we put it on
is
Broadway,
a downer.
it is, but it's
intended to be.
intended to be.
And Frank was a downer.
So it's just so interesting, again, you know, to hear that it is a very historically sound show, and it should be done, and
still
should
relevant.
be teaching every time it is done.
Roger, same thing. Why don't you talk about your experience with
Wait Until Dark.
Wait Until Dark, because you mentioned the fact that most of your performance before theatrically was musical based. So this certainly had no music in it.
No, it did not. And ironically, coming from music, I quickly stepped into a building where I was like, oh my goodness, are these people really sing and dance? Dance rehearsals with you guys? Woo! It's a lot. But
It is, but
I-
you've done Spam a lot.
yeah, absolutely. I would tour with it tomorrow if you guys could go with it. It's a great show. I love doing it. That acting for me is a complete escape. I keep talking about how I like being the feeling like the weakest link in the room, kind of. That's not meant to put myself down. That's meant to say how incredibly talented everyone around me here is. That's been the case from the start of my experience, at least. I'm sure it's been like that before. Working with Brader, man, come on. There's few people in this building that I trust more than that woman. I have always related it, my performing experiences in the wings, I'm in the airplane, right? Break that leg to the stage, and it's very much like trusting the prep and jumping into it. I think for me, I can't get caught up in my own head. I've got to be there. Like, however I invest myself in that character or manifest that, I can't be like Roger thinking, oh, crap, what's my next line?
Right.
Because I think that those little hiccups show, right?
Absolutely.
And that, for me as an actor, one of the biggest lessons that was hard for my fidgety, hot maggot on a hot rock personality was to just be still.
Uh-huh.
Well, especially in that play.
Particularly in that play.
With that character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For those
in,
that don't
in
know,
particular.
so this is Wait Until Dark. This is a play. I'm not sure if this was written before the movie, starring Audrey Hepburn. It's a black and white movie.
I
Or
would
if it
imagine the
was-
play came first, but I could be wrong.
Anyway, it's about a woman who is blind. A group of a group of men try to kind of swindle her into getting their stolen money or drugs from her apartment. It was mistakenly put there, but with her being blind, she has kind of heightened senses otherwise. So Roger's character, spoiler alert, pretends to be a friend of their family, and then in turn at the end winds up kind of being in cahoots with the bad guys. But it is a very tricky role, like Roger was saying, because he is likable at the beginning. You have to kind of agree with her that he's a good guy. And then at some point within that play, you're watching it and you're like, oh no. Oh, and you're like, you get chills all over your body and you're like, oh crap, he's in on it. And you're like, oh, that's it. That's it.
It was the end of Act 1.
Yeah.
And that was one of my favorite things. I get it was that subtle little thing where I go over and give the signal at the
Yep.
blinds, and that's it. And I would hear people like, no.
Yes.
Like,
But again,
That is the
over and
best.
over, that feeling is so amazing to I know what's going to happen. I saw the movie as a kid. We sat through rehearsals, we sat through performances, and every single time I would just be sitting on the edge of my seat waiting for that moment. And then even getting into, the second act where more meat is discovered, more meaty ideas.
So moving right along, we've kind of mentioned a bunch of shows that you've both been a part of for us here. But what we would like to pose to you is give us a show that you have not seen produced here that you would like us to
Little Shop of
produce.
Horrors.
Right off the
That
top
sounds
of the
good.
bat. Good
Little
one.
Shop of Horrors. Also, I'm gonna be greedy and take two. Smokey Joe's Cafe.
Yep, both great choices. I'm working on Smokey Joe's over at LaSalle College High School. Shout out to you guys.
Yeah, by this point in time, they would have
they
already
will have
opened
opened
and
and
closed.
closed it. Yeah, Roger, same for you.
this will be no surprise to anyone who's ever heard me speak. But I would love, I'll pay for the rights even if I'm not in the show. Natasha Pierre and the Great Comet of 1812. I think it's a beautiful,
It is a
beautiful piece
Was
of
it
When
music.
the rights
Beautiful
become
show.
available,
It's that
we'll add
character
it to the list.
is the first character I saw on stage, like in a musical type setting, musical theater setting, that I related to. I felt like those screaming little girls at Frozen. You know what I mean?
I love that about you, Roger.
and then
Can I
quickly.
have one more?
Yeah, go for
I'm
it.
so sorry.
No, go for it.
I'm putting it out in the universe. I don't care if it's here. But I want to be Becky in Waitress so
Waitress
badly.
is a great show. Waitress is a great show.
This is my public request. Companies members are allowed to ask. They're allowed to request parts. I want to be Becky in Waitress more than I can explain. But I'll take the national tour if anybody's watching.
Do you want to go?
Yeah. All right. Last question in this little section here. So we've Jomarie briefly touched on the idea that it is an unpaid performance opportunity here. You come back time and time again to do that. You donate your time and your energy and your gas money and
Is that a tax write-off?
yeah, do it.
Noted.
So why do you do this? We've had this answer is very similar on everyone, but it is also very different and kind of it can be very personal. So I ask you both the same thing. Roger, we'll start with you.
I've said it before. I'll just say it again. This is my tribe. To put it in a short sentence, I don't have many things in my life that have given me as much, taught me as much, pushed me as much, that I'd still remain involved and I enjoy a lot, a whole lot, you know? Like sometimes, I'm sure you guys do this too, you sit back and go, oh wow, we literally built this.
Yeah.
It's incredible.
You
I
sit
love
here
going in the
and look up.
bathrooms. I'm like, Schneider and I, we did this.
Yep. Bathroom stalls.
Yeah.
It's a real sense of family to me, and I feel like you guys really encourage that with everyone. There's lots of personalities, but no attitudes. You know what I mean?
That's a great way to put it.
There's definitely huge
There are.
personalities all in this building because you need those people.
Yes.
It's,
Yep.
it's just kind of who
Yep.
the theater people tend to be, right?
And listen, we say it all the time. We don't care if you're in the show with someone who you don't like. You leave that outside. Once you step in this door, we're all here for the same purpose. And we're here because we love what we're doing. So let's leave all the bull outside.
And if you don't love it, you don't have to be here. Or
And
you
if
don't
you
have
don't
to,
love
have
it
to do
here,
Yeah.
you don't have to keep coming back. Jomarie, go ahead.
You know, I touched on this a little bit earlier, but I need to quote a Mounty Award-winning supporting actress in a musical. Ditto what Roger said.
It's a great
We'll
quote.
take it. All right, do you want to start this?
Yeah.
sequence?
So we're gonna now switch gears completely. First, things that pop into your
Oh.
head. Oh, look at that auto mechanic
He's an
switching
auto
gears
mechanic.
completely. This is our ode to inside the actor studio. So just the first things that pop into your head, or if you want to take a brief second and think about some answers, but really just the
Is
initial
this like
thought.
lightning round?
Kind
Yes,
of
it
lightning
is
round.
All right,
Yeah.
let's go.
Well, you guys
So
have
we'll
a show.
start-
We got to get
yeah,
wrap it up.
We're in the middle of Anne Frank, the Diary of Anne Frank, which both of these fine young performers are a part of. By the time this airs, the show would have been over by a few months. So it had an amazing run, and everyone loved it.
Hello, future self.
Hello, future Roger. All right,
Hi, Jomarie.
Jomarie, we'll start with
Yososoegito.
you each time.
Okay,
What is your favorite musical?
all of them.
That's
You
a
ha-
fine
okay,
answer.
okay.
My favorite musical currently
Currently is a good answer.
is, oh, you know what? The last 5 years.
Roger.
I've already mentioned my affinity for The Great Comet. I also think that Hadestown is a beautiful piece.
It's a good runner-up for you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And as far as things that I've actually also seen here, The Ladies, Jesus Christ, Superstar.
Mhm.
I came
a
and
great
watched I think I missed one performance.
All
It's
right.
that good.
So then the opposite question, what is your least favorite musical?
Chess.
Okay.
I don't have one. I
Well,
don't-
we didn't say what do you hate.
Yeah.
This is your least favorite.
my least favorite musical. I don't have one. I find the beauty in each and every one of them, and I'll just hit skip on the soundtrack if there's something I don't like.
That's a nice thing.
Sounds like you're running for office.
No, it's the truth, though. Stop it.
She said chess. We'll accept that as lowest on the totem pole.
Don't hate me. I think you probably already know this, but I don't really get Joseph. It's just I don't connect with it.
That's okay.
hate.
Yeah.
No hate.
Because you've never done the mega remix, have you?
All right, moving right along. What sound or noise do you love?
I love listening to both of my children sing at the top of their lungs. It's my favorite sound.
Water, hands down, like sitting next to a creek or something.
Nice. Very nice. What sound or noise do you hate?
Redacted comment.
I feel scared now. Oh, you know what I can't stand? When people bite ice cubes.
Okay.
Oh, I
If
do
it's
that
not
all the
me,
time.
they could be in the room, and I'm like,
Like
Interesting.
chewing on
Noted.
ice. Okay.
goes down my
Future
spine.
Jomarie, do not chew ice in front of
Yeah.
Roger.
Jomarie, what is your favorite word?
Am I allowed to curse?
You can.
You
We'll
can,
bleep
we'll
it out.
Motherfucker.
Okay. Roger.
Just as far as the word goes, for some reason, this word anachronistic is always
It's a nice
Bop-
word.
He's
bopped
so much
around in-
smarter than me.
popped around in my head.
It's a nice word.
What is your least favorite word?
No.
Also, no.
I
Then
get
we
the
already.
fun one,
Yeah.
which you kind of already answered, but feel free to pick another. What is your curse word of choice?
Waffle.
I like it.
Don't laugh at me, Roger.
Also, no, I'm laughing with you. I'm laughing because of you. When I'm insulting somebody, I tend to fall back on calling people dim-witted. I think it's kind of mean, but it comes out of my mouth sometimes.
All right.
Sorry, Mom.
What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
All of them. But not like sciencey things.
Okay.
Which is weird because I deal in computers.
Mhm.
Maybe that's why.
I keep joking. You probably heard this before, too, in the dressing room. I'm just waiting on somebody to be walking down the street and go, you. And then I can be on television and be a character actor, which
Yes.
is something that
You.
I would enjoy attempting.
I'd watch it.
So then the opposite question, what profession would you not like to do? Whether it's something you've already done and you don't want to do again or something you would never want to attempt?
I would never want to be an auto mechanic.
Nobody does. I'm going to have to go with any kind of doctor, surgeon, any of that.
Okay.
Couldn't do it.
Not for you.
Mad respect for those
Not
people.
for you. And the last question, if heaven exists, what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
Grandmom's waiting. She's right over there. Mum, actually.
Devout agnostic that I am. Probably going to be something like, oh, we're going to have this conversation now, because that's my joke. When people are like, who would you like to talk to in heaven? I'm like, God. I got a few questions.
Yeah, very good answers. Well, thank you both
thank
so
you
much
both.
Thank you.
Thank
for
you.
joining us
And
today.
thank you all, and we will see you next time on Spotlight on Stage.